Good morning, friends. It is good to be here this morning with you all. Welcome to Journey Home Meditation's Morning Sit. This is a practice of shared breath work. We're going to do a little breathing together and probably have some contemplation and maybe get to a poem this morning. We'll see. Whatever it is that brought you here this morning, I'm glad you're here. My name is Michael, and I am very happy to be here to share these practices. So before we begin any further, let's just have a few moments to catch our breath. Spending this time to consciously invite stillness into our bodies and to bring our focus and our attention to our breath. This brings us into unity between our mind and our emotions and our body. So all three of these bodies are coming together. And the breath being the basis for spiritual practice is a way to understand our interconnectivity, our interconnection to each other and to all life and everything that we've ever known. It all begins and ends for this experience with the breath. Now that we've slowed down just for a moment, taking that pause is such a gift. It's such a beneficial aspect of our day, really, but of this practice is to take that pause, that moment, to really bring our focus and attention right here. I know, like so many of us, our day begins as soon as we awake. We begin to go over everything in our thoughts. We attach to and cling on to those thoughts and begin chasing them down rabbit holes. Oftentimes, and I think this is true for most of us, our day begins by rolling over and checking the phone. We convince ourselves we're just checking the time, but then we see the notifications and we begin to go down these different pathways of junk food for the mind. It's like a sugary sweet cereal for my thought process, and it ramps everything up. It keeps everything moving in this unattainable speed, right? It is not a sustainable practice, but here we are, and we're doing it. And then we move through our day with that level of playing catch up. So the pause is many times our first opportunity to just simply be, to be present in the space. I have appreciated the ability to develop routines of creating that space in my day over time, but for many years, decades of my life, I don't know if there was a pause for days and days at a time. In fact, I somewhat identified with this quickly moving mind, this racing thoughts, and I was able to find what I thought was beneficial in that. Never really connecting that not taking that time to slow down and just simply be in my body meant that whatever was happening in my body was unconsciously driving my behaviors through the day. So my anxieties, my fears, my insecurities that were untended to, the ones that were not being witnessed and being cared for and being resolved or healed through my day, were spilling out over onto my relationships. And you don't get a chance to recognize that until you have the opportunity for stillness and silence to be present. And then you start to recognize, oh, this other thing has been happening in the background all along. So, thanks for taking this moment for pause. Let's invite the bell and have a few breaths together, breathing in through our nose to the bottom of our bellies, inviting calm and stillness into our bodies. And breathing in. And breathing out. Breathing in. And letting go. Receiving. And releasing. you'll find as you hold this practice regularly over time, you'll become far more adept at being able to find that slowing down, that point of pause in your thoughts, and that place of welcomeness and comfort with being in the body. But it doesn't always come right away, and it sometimes isn't the easiest thing to do. For instance, body posture. You have to continue checking in to make sure that you're not resorting back into a posture that encourages defensiveness or closedness. And if you're not used to having these postures of openness and vulnerability, it takes practice and it takes effort. And it sometimes is uncomfortable. Now, I'm not promoting that you create discomfort physically in your body with stress or strain, but sometimes it is an uncomfortable or awkward feeling to hold yourself in a way that you are not accustomed to, especially when that's an open chest and an open heart and a soft belly. All of these things seem to be counter to our response to crisis. And it seems that we have a pretty consistent record of maintaining crisis in our culture. So it's not always easy to maintain the practices, but the practices are very simple. And they're simple because they have been refined over a very long time. And the very special thing that I found is that they are very much tailor fit to your personal experience, and they are available to anyone. And as we recognize that universality of our shared sufferings and our shared successes and our biomechanics and all of these things that we share, we become more able to feel a sense of belonging. And I jokingly named the sit this morning. You have to put in a name to create a stream key to be able to stream this sit. And I jokingly called it Where Everybody Knows Your Pain. It's taken from the theme song to the TV show Cheers, Where Everybody Knows Your Name. But really, as much as that was a tongue-in-cheek reference to probably a larger part of my childhood than I'd like to admit, was watching Cheers. There is a truth to wanting to go where everybody knows your pain. And there's also a large amount of resistance to that we carry. We want no one to know our pain. We don't want to tell people our pain, but we want also to be seen and to be validated and to be understood when we are in pain. And it's this really difficult conundrums that we create where the one thing that we need is the thing we defend ourselves from receiving the most. But once you can begin to sit with your own experience without feeling a desire to run away, or at least if you feel the desire to run away, you recognize that that desire to run away is also simply a part of your process, and that you can sit with that discomfort as well as the discomfort of what you want to run away from. And you begin to see that you are multitudinous, you are very large, and you have all of these aspects within you. That's when you can start to sit with others and their multifaceted being. And when you begin to go into spaces where vulnerability is encouraged and it's safe to be vulnerable, you'll start to see that, yeah, I really do want to be in spaces where I don't have to mask and I don't have to close off and I don't have to hunch over and make myself smaller. I can be the size that I am. I can be open. I can be extremely sad, or I could be very happy, or I could be both of those things at the same time. That there's a welcomeness to a wholeness of who I am, which is something I think a lot of us have missed in our life. We learned somehow that we are welcome, but our emotional disruptions are not welcome, or that we are welcome as long as we make others feel joy and happiness, and so we abandon ourselves. We abandon parts of ourselves for many years. And being in a space where you don't have to do that, and you feel supported, and you are able to support others, that is an amazing gift. And it may begin right here in these morning sits. It may begin in these chat rooms. It may begin in these conversations following the posts. So I encourage you to engage with this content for that reason, because I think it's important that we bring an openness as a practice. And I don't see a benefit in keeping it all to ourselves. I see the benefits in my life are compounded the more that I am connected to people. It hasn't always felt that way, because I haven't always been capable of holding connection in that way to myself. I was very much functioning on this level of crisis externally so that I could keep my attention averted from what I was feeling inside, the brokenness or the fear of lack or the shame and embarrassment or whatever it is that was keeping me away from myself. It's like I'm a perfectionist on the outside because I need something to justify how I can never do it right on the inside, that belief that I can never do it right. Well, that's why I say I'm a perfectionist, which just justifies my criticisms of myself and the world. It doesn't actually mean I'm being perfect. But that's just one example of the ways in which we create tension or crisis on the outside of us as a way to often avoid what's happening on the inside. I go to my father's home and I visit my father, and the TV is on 24 hours a day. And if I come in the room and I want to have a conversation and I ask to turn the TV off, I see him physically and visibly start to activate. He starts rocking, shaking, tapping his hands, tapping his feet, his head's moving around, he can't focus. And I recognize that he's meeting his needs when he has that television on, his need for something to take him outside of that body that he's trying so badly to leave. He's jumping out of his own skin. And no one has ever taught him that he doesn't have to feel that way all the time, that there is a way to make peace with our bodies, and there's a way to make peace with that way of being. And there's so many of us that I see suffering that lack of understanding that they can make peace with their bodies, and they do whatever they can to get out of them. We do whatever we can to get out of them. So we have every sensory overload system in place. We have sweet shops galore, and we have bars and pharmacies and junk food restaurants, and we have glorious movie theaters and huge arenas for loud concerts, and we have all of these things that are really fun and they're really enjoyable. There's no doubt about that. They're made to be so, but they're also these bastions of refuge for many of us to find those places that we can safely avoid our own silence. But there's always that moment when, as Jim Morrison said, when the music's over, when we're still that space of abandonment within ourselves that so many of us struggle with and suffer from. And so I just want to hold this space today to say, this is a space that you can begin to heal that relationship. You can begin to repair that internal space and make a home. This is what journey home means. Journey home means to come into that internal space, that space of rest, that space of acceptance, of respite, of healing, Come inside, do your laundry, check the fridge. That's what it is to come home. There are many years of my life where I was in and out of homelessness, shared with addiction, but I would still get to come back to my mother's house occasionally to, do laundry or have dinner, spend time with her, take a nap. I took a lot of naps. But because of my behaviors, I wasn't allowed to live with her, and I understand that. But always that feeling of being able to come home, to return home. I moved out at a very young age to live with friends, and I'd still come home and do laundry and raid her refrigerator and watch her TV. And I think that gave me a sense not of being raised in the feeling of having home, but being able to return to a space, what it means to return to a space of safety when you're out in a place of unsafety. And it took a long time to recognize that that's actually just an internal experience. That's something I can access whenever I'd like. No matter where I live, no matter what I'm experiencing in my life, I can return home into my inner being, my inner self. I can make a home, I can do cleaning, I can make it comfortable, and I can step into a level of love and power there. So that's why I share these practices, and they're for anyone, but they're not for everyone. I understand that. But I'd like as many people to have an opportunity to learn these practices somewhere, whether it's here or with someone else. I do know that there were many years of my life that I teetered on the edge of suicide, that I walked that line of falling back into addiction or dropping everything one day and disappearing. And it really wasn't until the last few years of my life that I was able to find and maintain a sense of belonging inside of myself. So this is why I ask people that do find benefit in these practices to please don't be silent about that. Please share that with someone in your life. You don't know who it is that may be looking for an invitation. You don't know who it is that may just be waiting to be invited into something that you love, something that you find benefit from. I'm not saying we proselytize, I'm just saying we let people know, hey, by the way, there's a way to be safe in your body. This might work for you. This might be a way for you. And I say that today, keeping in mind that there are many in my direct community who are struggling this morning, receiving news of a friend, a family member, someone people have known and lived with for many years in this community has died. And the news coming about this death is shocking to some, and it's got a lot of people that live here feeling those fears and those pains and that suffering. And I just want people to know that there is a place where everybody knows your pain. Come on down to Journey Home today if you'd like, and just sit and have tea or coffee. You don't have to speak, but you can talk as much as you want. We just want to encourage the cultivation of a homecoming, coming into ourselves and finding safety there instead of a dying need to escape. So I think that that's actually, you know what, maybe we can do one poem here. There is a poem I was thinking of. I don't know if I'll be able to find it. Give me one moment, friends. You know, this is one of the reasons that I preach the gospel of Post-it notes with my books. I get these little Post-it note tags, and I usually tag poems that come up in my mind frequently. I will tag them so that I can access them when I want their wisdom. But I guess there's a reason for everything, and there's a reason I'm not finding that poem in this moment. And that's okay. But I am also an addict, and so my brain will not stop wanting to focus on finding this poem until I find it. Okay. I tried. I guess today we'll just read our own poems. So thanks for being here this morning, friends. I care about you, and I'm grateful to you for caring for me. So I guess that's all we have today. All right, friends, be well.